Hello student, I'm Mr. Liang. So in this video, I'm going to have the debriefing section for the re-quiz of chapter 3. And also I will introduce the examination skills for osmosis experiment again. So in this retest, actually the focus will be the osmosis experiment. But of course, we still have some questions about phagocytosis and diffusion. So we shall have a quick look, okay, of that question first. So for question 1, actually we did it for 3 times already, I think. First time is in assignment and the second time is in quiz, and actually that's the third time for the phagocytosis question. So I just want to highlight the very important processes, okay, in phagocytosis. The infolding of the cell membrane and then form the pseudopodia, and then it will surround the maybe bacteria or maybe the large particles, and then surround it and engulf it, and after engulfing it, so we need to digest it. For example, if the white blood cell engulf the bacteria, so the white blood cell, it needs to kill the bacteria, okay? So for example, by using enzyme. So that's why for the processes, most of you did it well, okay, and answered correctly. So it should be 2, 1, 4, 3. So the answer is B. Very, very quick question. So for questions 2 and 3, actually, we need to think, okay, because it's an experiment of osmosis. So it's just like before, we put the potato cylinder or the potato strips into different solution, okay, different concentration, okay. So that's what we have: 5% sucrose solution, 10% and X%, and unknown percent, okay. So and then what the result will be the percentage in length: positive 7%, negative 6%, and also positive 12%. So in this question, the first very important idea is that you need to recall the concept of osmosis, of water potential. So the relationship is that the higher the concentration of the solution, the lower the water potential is. And of course, we can reverse it to become the lower the concentration of the solution, the higher the water potential is. So at least you need to we call this concept first. And then we have 3 guiding questions for you to analyze the data. Remember, data analysis is very key skills in science, especially in biology, because we have a lot of experiment. So the first question is that, what is the meaning behind the percentage change in length of the potato strips? So positive value, negative values, what does it mean? Okay, it means water gaining or water losing, water loss or water gain. Okay, so that's the first idea you need to know. And then once you know that, oh, water gain, oh, water loss, so what should be the net movement of water molecules? That means the osmosis, okay? So the net movement of water molecules entering the cell or leaving the potato cells. So you need to know it. And actually, question 2 is following question 1. Once you know that water gain, and then I think you should know that there should be net movement entering the potato cells. And then what if there is a water loss? So the water molecules, there should be a net movement of water molecules leaving the potato cells. And then the third one is that once we know the net movement of the water molecules, and then we can know the water potential of the sucrose solution of different concentration. And remember that once we are talking about high or low water potential, actually is a comparison. And in this question, we are comparing the sucrose solution and the cytoplasm of the potato cells. So that's why the water potential of the sucrose solution of different concentrations, actually we are comparing it with the water potential of the cytoplasm of the potato cells. So remember, we are comparing something, okay? So we go to the analysis part, okay? So for the percentage change in length, as what I mentioned, is talking about water gain or water loss. So we have positive value and negative value. So for the positive value, there must be a water gain. And then for the negative value is water loss. And what does it mean? It means that the net movement of water molecules from where to where, entering the cell or leaving the cells. So for the positive value, water gain, and then positive 12 water gain as well. So that's why there must be a net movement of water molecules entering the cytoplasm of the red blood cell, or simply entering the red blood cell from the 5% sucrose solution or from the X% sucrose solution. And for the 10% sucrose solution, because the value of the percentage change in length is negative, so that's why there must be net movement of water molecules leaving the wrapper cell to the sucrose solutions, right? So, and then we can determine the water potential difference. Remember, what I mentioned is about comparison. So that's why for the 5% sucrose solution, the water potential of this solution is higher than that of the cytoplasm of wrapper cell. And for the 10% sucrose solution, because it's losing water, in this case, the potato cells, they are losing water. So that's why for the 10% sucrose solution, the water potential should be lower than that of the potato cells. Okay? And for the X% sucrose solution, because the value of the potato cylinder, the percentage change in length is positive 12%. So that's why actually it gains more water. Okay, and it becomes longer than the 5% sucrose solution. So that's why the water potential should be much higher. So that's why more water will enter the potato cells, right? And then after that, we shall know the question 2, because we are going to compare 5% and the X%. Both of them, they should have a higher water potential than that of the cytoplasm of potato cells. And even more, we know that the X% sucrose solution, it will lead to a longer potato strips later on. So that's why the water potential of the X% sucrose solution should be much higher than that of the 5% sucrose solution. And according to the important concept I mentioned before, the lower the concentration of the solution, the higher the water potential is. So that's why for the X% sucrose solution, it has a higher water potential. So that means it should have a lower concentration of sucrose. So that's why the answer is one and only one, A, 2% sucrose solution. Okay, for question 2. And then for question 3, actually we need to employ the line, okay, here, the diagram here, okay, to compare the water gain or water loss, okay, in which cases, okay. So on the left hand side, we have the percentage change in length, 12%, positive 12%, positive 7% means water gain. Negative 6%, it means water loss. And actually, on the right hand side, it is the concentration of the sucrose solution. We have 2%, 5%, and 10%. Actually, that's the table, okay, we have here. And actually, the question is asking about the water potential of the potato cells of the potato is closest to that of a certain solution. Okay, so that means if the water potential of the potato cells, the cytoplasm of the potato cells is same as a certain concentration of solution, so that means there should be no net movement of water molecules. That means by osmosis between the sucrose solution and the potato cells. So that's why the length of the potato strip, okay, it will not be changed at all. So that's why the percentage change of the length, it should be 0%. Okay, and then we can estimate the possible concentration in the right hand, on the right hand side, because for this part, for 0%, no net change, and then the concentration of the solution, it should be between 5% and 8%. Okay, because in between this percentage, okay, we shall get a possible 0% number here. So that's why for the answer, it must be 8%. Because for 2%, is already wrong already, okay? And for 12 and 15%, so actually it will lead to a bigger water loss, greater water loss, okay? So the number should be up much negative, okay, more negative, okay? So that's for question 2 and 3. And then for long question, the long question is talking about the wrapper cell. We immerse them in the salt solution of different concentration, and then to observe the number of wrapper cell under the microscope. And in the table, I just want to highlight one thing, actually the basic concept here. The higher the concentration of the salt solution, the lower the water potential is. That's what we learned before, okay? And actually for the whole question is talking about hemolysis, okay? Hemolysis, we learn it from the book, because once we put the wrapper cell in the hypotonic solution, actually the water potential of the hypotonic solution is much higher than that of the red cell, the cytoplasm of the red cell. So that's why the water, there will be a net movement of water molecules entering the red cell, and then the red cell will swell, and then finally they will burst, and then the hemoglobin, they will leak out. So that's why, that's the process, that's the phenomenon of hemolysis. Okay, so for question A, in salt solutions of concentration lower than 0.2%, we observe no cells, okay, because all the red cells, they burst. And in terms of water potential, explain why all the red cells, they burst, okay, in the solution, okay, of concentrations lower than 0.2%, that means 0.2 and 0%, okay. So actually in this part, I would like to highlight the 3 steps process, okay, to answer the questions of osmosis. So the first step is that you need to tell me the water potential difference. So in this question, you need to tell me, okay, to compare something. The water potential of the salt solution, okay, of concentrations lower than 0.2% is higher or lower than that of the cytoplasm of the red cell. Now remember the wordings, the sentence structure. Water potential of the salt solution or of a certain concentration is higher or lower than that of a certain another solution, maybe the that of cytoplasm of red cell. And then if there is difference, so there should be a net movement of water molecules, okay? So there is a net movement of water molecules from where to where, okay? From the salt solution to the cytoplasm of the red cell, or from the cytoplasm of the red cell to the salt solution. You need to tell me, okay? From XXX to YYY. Now remember, if your answer only says from high to low, it's very stupid answer. Of course, high to low. Okay, I want to know from which solution to which solution, or maybe from the cell to the solution, or from the solution to the cell. Okay, so that's number 2, second step. And the first step is that just say the result. The results can be the rate change, can be the length, can be cell appearance. So actually in this question, it's very good because it told you already all of the red cell, they burst. So that's why there is only 2 marks, because you only need to tell me the first step and the second step. For the first step, it's given already. So the necking of water in the red cell, we need them to swell and burst finally. Okay, so that's why I just want you to substitute the word, okay, and then do the correction. And for the part A, the answer will be the water potential of the salt solution of concentration lower than 0.2% is higher than that of the cytoplasm of the red cells. And then after you tell me the water potential, first mark already, and then tell me the net movement of water molecules. There is a net movement of water molecules from salt solution to the cytoplasm of the red cell across the differentially permeable membrane by osmosis. You know we are talking about osmosis, so tell me by osmosis. From the salt solution to the cytoplasm of red cell, the net movement of water molecules. And finally, okay, just copy this statement because actually it's just given by the question, okay? So the necking of water in red cell will need them to swell and burst. So that's for part A. And actually, I would like to change something, is that what if the question is changed to explain the appearance of the red cell in the 0% salt solution? Actually, most likely they're the same, okay? But I just do not tell you the appearance of the red cell. I do not tell you they burst. And I want you to tell me what is the appearance later on. So there will be 1 more mark. Okay? So it will not be 2 marks anymore because you need to go through steps 1, 2, 3 to me. Okay? So that's the 3 steps for the osmosis question. And I explain it once more in part A. Okay, so let's move on to part B. So in part B, it's talking about when we put the red cell in the salt solution of concentration between 0.4 to 0.8%. So we found that actually the number of the red cells present under the microscope, okay, in percentage. So we still can see maybe 3% or 55%, okay, of the red cell, they appear, okay, they still exist. So in these concepts, okay, we start to think about some red blood cell they burst, while some red blood cell they did not burst. So I would like to know the reason, okay, behind it. Because in the basic concept is that if we put the cells in the solution, which is hypotonic, okay, lower concentration, higher water potential, okay, than the cytoplasm. So somehow the water will keep going into the cell, and then the cell will swell, and then the cell will burst finally. But why? Okay, it shows that in the question, some of them they burst, some of them they did not. Okay, so what is the reason behind? And the reason actually is extremely easy, because in terms of water potential, we know that follow the logic of 3 steps. If there is a difference of water potential, so there will be a net movement of water molecules, maybe entering, maybe leaving the cells, right? But what if the water potential of the cytoplasm in the red blood cell and the source solution, the water potential of the source solution, they are the same? So there will not be net movement at all. Okay, so if we follow this logic, actually the answer will be extremely easy, because just different red blood cells, they have different water potentials. So that's why the water gain, the amount of water gain will also be different. Some cells, some red blood cells, they may just intake small amount of water. They will be swollen, yes, but they may not be burst. And some of them, they may just intake too much water, and then they will swell and burst. Okay, so is it possible for some cell may even lose water? Okay, so it's still also possible, because once the cytoplasm of the red blood cell is higher, okay, the water potential of the red blood cell cytoplasm is higher than the water potential of the source solution, they may even lose water. Everything is possible. Okay, so that's why don't just narrow your mind to think that, yeah, I put the solution in the hypotonic solution, okay, so they will burst, all of them will burst, okay, because when we talk about all or most or some, okay, so this adjective, okay, we need to be very, very careful, okay. Maybe most of them burst, okay, but not may not be all, okay. So, and then for part C, okay, part C is a very simple question, because it just asks you to describe, okay, the appearance of the red blood cell in 1.2% source solution. So the single thing what you need to know is just that we put the red blood cell in a hypertonic solution. So what will happen? Okay, so the water should leave the red blood cell due to the water potential difference, okay, by osmosis. And of course, one thing is that red blood cells, they are animal cells. They do not have cell wall. So that's why if your answer is plasmolized, okay, or the cell membrane detached from the cell wall, or you may say that the red blood cell will become flaccid, okay, is very, very wrong, because you even misunderstand the red blood cell as a plant cell, okay. So describe the appearance. Normally, they are wrinkled, they shrink, okay, that's very okay. But if I change the question a bit, okay, I also want you to employ the 3 steps to answer this question, okay. Same logic flow as before. Explain the appearance of the red blood cell in 1.2% source solution. I want you to tell me the appearance, and I also want your explanation. So follow the 3 steps. State the water potential difference. The water potential of the 1.2% source solution is lower than that of the cytoplasm of red blood cell. Higher or lower difference, right? And then, right, there should be a net movement, right? So there is a net movement of water molecules from the cytoplasm of the red blood cells to the 1.2% source solution across the differentially permeable membrane by osmosis. Now we call the terms osmosis. And finally, the appearance, okay, you need to tell me. So state the result. So the result should be, so the net loss of water in the red blood cell will need them to be wrinkled or shrink finally. So same idea. 3 steps, 1, 2, 3, you can answer the question completely, easily, in a very convenient way. Okay, so I just want you to be aware of the sentence structure of the first step. Water potential of something something is higher or lower than that of something something. Okay, don't omit the word that. Okay, sentence structure. I think if your English language proficiency is good, so I think you understand what does it mean. And then for part C, I would like to extend something. That's the diagram. I captured it from the book. Okay, so the same experiment, we put the rubber cell into the sodium chloride solution. That means the saline, the salt solution. Okay, and then I would like to focus on solution D and E, 1.35% and 1.8%. So we see that some of the cells, they become wrinkled, they shrink, but some of the cells, okay, they look normal by concave disc shape. Why? So the idea is just like part B. Part B, it says that why some rubber cell burst, but why some they did not. The same idea is that if I ask you in the salt solutions of 1% salt solution and 1.2% salt solution, some of cells wrinkled, but some of them they did not. Why? Actually, the answer is the same. It's just because the rubber cells, they have different water potentials, and the amount of water lost by different cells were different. So that's why some cells, they lose much water, but some of them, they just lose less water. So they may not be that wrinkled. Okay, they may not be that wrinkled. They may just look like the same. Okay, so that's the idea. I just copy part B and then change it a bit to become a new question. But the answer, the logic flow is the same. So that's something you need to learn. Remember, biology, it keeps changing. You need to think. You do not just memorize everything and then you will be able to answer the question. You need to use your brain to think. Okay? And for question 2, a bit simple question because it's just a comparison. Water and oxygen are important to cells, okay? And these two substances, they enter the cell by different processes. It's given by the questions. It already told you that water enter the cells, oxygen enter the cells in different processes. So that's why you need to name the 2 different processes for water and oxygen. Water by which method? Oxygen by which method? Okay, so 1 mark. And then second question, state the process, and then second question is give 2 similarity and 2 differences between the processes. So that means actually you are asked to compare these 2 processes. Okay, so that's why 2 more marks for similarity, 2 more marks for difference. And remember that because you are comparing something, what you need to do is the complete comparisons. Water enters the cell by osmosis. Oxygen enters the cell by diffusion. That's something you must be able to know. You must be able to recall it. If you, for the first mark, you say it wrongly. Or water enters the cell by active transport, LL, wrong. Oxygen enters by the cell by active transport, LL, also wrong. Okay, so remember that. You need to state the correct process first, and then tell me the difference. Okay, so for example, osmosis and diffusion, they are both of them are passive. Both. Okay, the wordings, both. Processes are passive, they do not require energy, or both of them involve a net movement of substance along the gradient, maybe along the concentration gradient, maybe along the water potential gradient. Okay, but no matter what, it's along a gradient. And then the rate of the 2 processes, they increase with the temperature and the concentration gradient. Okay, so at least you need to be able to point out number 1 and number 2. And then for the difference, it's about the differentially permeable membrane must be present for osmosis to occur. But if you can use while, whereas, and but, whatever. But a differentially permeable membrane is not necessary for diffusion to occur. So remember what we did in the classroom. I use the deodorant spray. Okay, I spray it in one corner, and actually, okay, in the classroom, is there any membrane? No. So that means diffusion is not necessary for the membrane. But if there is a membrane here, we need to consider the size or the nature of the molecules. For example, for cell membrane, oxygen can diffuse across the phospholipid bilayer. But for the ion, sodium ion or chloride ion, they are polar. Okay, so they need to move across the channel protein or carrier protein. So that's something we learned in chapter 3 as well. And the second difference is that osmosis refers to the movement of water molecules only, but diffusion refers to the movement of any substance including water. So remember what we highlight in the book before. Osmosis is a special kind of diffusion. That's something we learned before in the book. Actually, diffusion, okay, they can disrupt for any substance once they are small, so that will be fine, okay? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, something like this, even water. But osmosis is a very special kind of movement. We only focus on water. So that's why that's the difference between osmosis and diffusion. So if you have any questions, so just leave it in the comment, okay? We see you next time. Bye-bye.